one of the most popular figures in professional wrestling today, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Hello, Brian.
What is that, your Sue the Shooter voice?
Hello, Brian. I'm just here to do the show. I don't want to offend anyone. I'm afraid that I should say something wrong and someone should take offense and their butts would hurt. So I just want to be polite, sir. Thank you, sir. Please, sir, may I have another? I don't want to cause any trouble. I'll just be over in the corner. Everyone else can speak.
Well, this has the makings of a very interesting drive-thru. Of course, you are a little bit controversial at this very moment. But
well, you know, Brian, I'll tell you what it cures hoarseness. It cures the most nagging cases of hoarseness, ladies and gentlemen. Ah, yes. You know, I'm reminded more of why my new motto in life is the old Steve Allen line. He says, guy asked him, said, do they get your program in Cleveland? He said, well, they watch it, but I'm not sure they get it. I'm so flummoxed and befuzzled and bewildered at the people in the world that just don't get it. But, you know, I want to try not to alienate anyone here on the program or make them feel uncomfortable or violate their spaces or whatever. But as an update on what we talked about on the experience last week, I said they're trying to ban Jim Cornette from polite society. They're out there on Twitter because I don't know why. I drew the comparison between the 14-year-old teenage girls that used to send me the death threats when we would hit Ricky Morton over the head with the racket on TV. And 35 years later, these are supposedly people that are supposedly smart, that all wrestling is just phony and silly. But when I insult their favorite wrestlers, oh my God, their heads become on fire. And when I tell them that their favorite wrestler is silly or stupid, my God, there are real problems in the world, ladies and gentlemen, but they explode. And then it's so easy then. And, you know, now I'm understanding there's some things about modern society in general by watching the modern group of wrestling fans. Instead of the mature, dignified, cultured, cognizant, with it group that comprises the majority of the Cult of Cornette audience here, modern society in general and some of the modern wrestling fans are reminding me of each other because there are real things going on in the world, but they don't see it because they believe what they read on the internet. And so therefore, that is how they choose their crusades, because of what they read on the internet. And I mentioned how that now they were just screaming at me because I was encouraging suicide and I had told a guy to kill himself. And I mentioned to you, we told the story. It was the time I reviewed the match. I said, boy, look at that ring announcer, the way he was dressed. They ought to take him out and hang him in a parking lot. And a year later, it's become, oh my God, he told the guy to kill himself. Now I mentioned they, and then hung in the parking lot, et cetera, et cetera. I'm mocking suicide. So I want to make this clear at the top of the program. I have not ever seriously considered public hanging of any kind as a penalty for dressing badly. I just want to clear that up right now for the folks who were unsure on that. And as well, I believe this past week on the experience, I mentioned that when I've said that Kenny Omega, for wrestling a blow-up sex toy at a competitive match in public, ought to be boiled in oil and have his fat sold for soap. I mentioned that even if somebody did have him hanging over the boiling oil and there was a rendering machine there and there was a soap factory we'd already made a deal with, that at worst, and I wouldn't get in trouble, that at worst I would probably say I'll let him down and break a few of his fingers so he can't do the jazz hands. I mentioned that. Because exaggeration for effect is something that is actually in my vocabulary and in my cognizance, and I don't just act like that I'm hearing Klaatu Barada Nikto from a space alien when I think of those concepts. As a matter of fact, most of the time when I extrapolate a penalty for the various stupid, silly, annoying goofs that piss me off, such as the cosplay wrestlers and the Republicans. While I do wish ill upon them because they are negatively affecting either me or my profession or my life in general in the case of the politicians, I don't know if I would go as far as to gut all of them with rusty fishing knives, because actually there are a few exceptions. Shit stain, the people who eat dogs in South Korea, if I could get away with it, bad shit might happen. However, for the most part, I don't even know, Brian. If somebody had Mitch McConnell held down in front of me, I don't know if I could find or know where to get a rusty fishing knife. So
the lake?
Well, I'm not going to jump in a goddamn lake and just start mucking around trying to find a rusty fishing knife. I got better things to do with my time. I don't care anymore. Oh, no, I don't care anymore. I don't care what you say. I never did believe you much anyway. I don't care anymore, so get out of my fucking way. Let me by. I got better things to do with my time. Anyway, where was I going with this? So anyway, and then here's another thing. If I am not allowed to say one of my favorite expressions, or should I be allowed to say it? You can drop dead or you can blow me. Now, I'm not just encouraging death. There is an option. I always say you have the option. You can either drop dead or blow me. But now is that somehow, because once again, I'm encouraging them to do the other, because it'd probably be better for both of us if they blew me than drop dead. So I don't know where the line is here. But the point is, so I get a call a couple days ago from the poor beleaguered National Wrestling Alliance executive, David Lagana. And he says, did you tell somebody to kill himself? I said, no. He said, did you make fun of suicide? I said, no. He said, well, why are all these people saying you are? I said, because the same reason that Trump is president. They believe what they read on the internet. And he said, well, Jim, that's very serious. I said, I'm aware of that. I said, we just had an issue where one of our listeners and a customer of mine at Cornette's Collectibles and somebody I've got to know, and we read the letter on the air, had that issue. And he said, well, we can't joke about it. I said, that's why I don't. And he said, so you give me your word of honor that you will neither encourage anybody to commit suicide nor joke about suicide. I said, yes, David, you have my word of honor. I will continue not to do that. And I realize now that this is why that the guy went to the fucking pizza place in Jersey with the fucking gun to free the children that were being held in the pedophile ring by Hillary Clinton in the basement next to the fucking frozen pizza dough. Because either they can't get it when they hear it, or they read it and want it to be true because of that bad person. So, as a matter of fact, we have, and I want to play the tape to show people, although this audience already knows, and the ones I'm trying to preach to ain't going to get it. But from a few weeks ago on The Experience, we had a letter from a listener, as I said, and we read that. And I want to talk to you about what kind of feedback we got from it but let's play that just real briefly, and then we'll come back. And I wanted to start off with one thing, and I didn't even tell you about this beforehand because I wasn't sure I wanted to do it because I didn't want people to think I was, in some way, I'm reading this to put myself over, but I wanted to read this letter that I just got. I'm not going to mention the guy's name, but I've recognized his name because he not only has an unusual address, because he's in a service. So he's got one of the APO addresses, and then they forward the mail. But also, I remember his last name is familiar to me because of people I've known. And he's bought a number of things at Cornette's Collectibles. And I've said I've gotten to meet a bunch of the customers at these fan fests and everything. But this guy, I have not met yet, but I recognize his name. And he had just ordered a book, The Behind the Curtain. And I just sent it out to him. And then I go to the post office yesterday, and there's a letter in the box from him. And I'm like, well, I didn't know what that would be. And I open it up, and before I see anything, there's a thank you card that says thank you. And there's not only a gift card for Carrabba's in there, but also one for Petco for Harley Quinn. Which was, and so but then I read the note, and I'm going to read, and I'm not going to read his name, but I'm going to read you most of the note. Dear Jim, I just wanted to reach out and say thank you. I'm enclosing a gift card to Carrabba's because, as illustrated by your birthday meal, it's good stuff. I'm also closing a gift card for Harley Quinn. I'm sure this doesn't ring a bell, but with the millions of members of the cult, but I'm so-and-so, the guy stationed in so-and-so who orders stuff from Cornette's Collectibles and listens to both podcasts every week, even in where he is. I want to thank you for providing my family so much joy as poor kids growing up in HUD housing. That's housing and urban development, not the greatest place in the world to live in some instances for the international audience. In HUD housing, we would look forward to 6:05 Eastern every week to watch you in the midnights. I was lucky and made it out of there. I've served my country for over 25 years, have a college education, a family, and I'm not a gun nut or a Republican. But my brother never left. We still bonded by talking about the experience and Drive-Thru each week. I surprised him with a signed hard copy of Behind the Curtain, and he loved it. I just got mine today because his went overseas. Unfortunately, I come to you with a heavy heart. My brother had demons, and on Monday, the 1st of October, I got the phone call that we all dread. My brother was found dead, having taken his own life. I searched for answers and am left with a huge hole in my heart and a void. We both got so much joy talking about old wrestling and about your two shows. Again, thank you for providing him some light in the darkness. I now don't have a buddy to talk old wrestling with, and it hurts so bad. And then he gives his contact information, which I'm not going to give, and he signs it a proud cult member. And when I got that, I was just like, fuck. His brother just died, and he just sent me gift cards thanking me for what I had been able to do or had done for them, which just, I don't even know what to say otherwise. And it's, sometimes we say, we do this fucking show every week or whatever the fuck, and I will put it up on YouTube. But this is proof that a lot of people not only take what we're doing seriously, but enjoy it. And it's a way for them to be involved with other people they like to be around or members of their family or whatever. But I couldn't believe it. I wanted to tell this guy on the air that I appreciate what he said, and I'm still dumbfounded and honored or whatever and speechless that I would get and Harley would get a gift card just for what we were able to do for them in this particular point in time, because this is recent. It's just like now that this happened. So I want to say, we must do a real good show, but I think maybe that's the thing. Everybody knows we don't do a show because fucking hell, God knows if we were trying to do a show, we'd actually try harder and put more bells and whistles into it. This is just a conversation, which is, and we don't bullshit people for the sake of the sponsors or whatever. So maybe people kind of take what we do a little bit more seriously and a little bit more legitimately. I don't know. So after that, we actually got emails from folks saying, hey, I'll be the guy to talk wrestling with him. And I had a similar situation happen. And I don't even know if he wants me to mention his name, but there's a longtime Cult of Cornette member, gets bruised occasionally, that had something similar happen where he lost somebody. And, we treat serious, real things seriously and real. When it's a real situation, we don't joke about it. When some clown is out in a fucking wrestling match somewhere with a goofy outfit or doing silly shit, I'm going to talk about it. because that's my profession. I'm an expert, and it pisses me off. But we don't make fun of people who have real life situations. We express sympathy for them because it's real. And the only thing I didn't do when we read that letter, I should have given the suicide prevention hotline number, which I didn't know what it was at the time and didn't think about it, but it is 1-800-273-8255. And Stacy even looked that up for me and said, this is something you, and I said, Lagana beat you to it, right? But if people, instead of acting like teenage girls with a crush on their favorite wrestler and saying old man bad, because I point out that your silly wrestlers are silly and you send me hate mail with misspelled words just like 35 years ago, and you try to concoct all this shit up, or you can't handle my comments and you can't separate whatever the fuck it is in your brain you can't separate that allows you not to have any common sense, then if you really want to help an issue, instead of getting on Twitter and arguing with the same 17 people for 3 hours on how horrible I am because I hate women, because I quote Andy Kaufman, or I hate gay people because I think Sonny Kiss was fucking stupid, or I hate somebody else because your favorite wrestler is a clown, why don't you go out and address the issues? Why don't you vote for or campaign for or contribute to better mental health care so that people who may feel suicidal can get some help? Because any kind of health care in this country would be a bonus, would be a plus. Why don't you campaign for, spend your energy on, advocate for, contribute to stricter gun control in all forms and facets, background checks, the type of guns, the amount of guns, whatever, because obviously most suicides in the United States are by a gun, as well as most homicides. So you could do a good in a variety of fronts. Why don't you campaign for, I don't know, are there no sick children left in the world? Are there no diseases left to cure? God, wait, Brian, what was the last figure that the cult of Cornette members, that these fucking butthurt fucking pussy needs powder and simpering fucking social justice warriors, is that what they call them, the SJWs?
I believe so.
How much money has every other wrestling podcast, because I mentioned on Twitter a few weeks ago, maybe not that long ago, I said everybody that doesn't like me either has a picture of their favorite wrestler on their page, has a podcast with 6 listeners. Actually, I forget. Oh, is a former or current pro wrestler that nobody has ever heard of. How much money have they raised for charity in the last 2 years alone? The cult of Cornette that they despise because we say all these things about their favorite wrestlers, and Cornette's people are just mindless trolls that repeat his nonsense. All of us together have raised between the American Cancer Society and Crusade for Children in the last 2 calendar years, either raised or donated or been responsible for the groups for us, such as Jacked Up Jeremy doing that $5,000 in Charlotte alone, about $20,000 for charity.
And actually, if you want to increase it a little bit, it's a little bit different, but professional wrestler Jerry Gray, who's been battling for his life and he's right now in the hospital, listeners of this show in the 605 have raised just under $35,000 for him.
Good Lord. Well, and there you, okay, so what's the toll and the tally on the other podcasts and the other wrestling social justice warriors and the other, oh man, bad, get rid of him group?
I couldn't tell you that. My algorithms can give me everyone else's stats, not how much money they give the charity.
Yeah, well, your algorithms. I got one of those one time at that Oriental massage place, and my fucking hip hurt for a week. But anyway, and the internet has become what they used to call it, the telephone game, where when you were kids, you'd whisper a story or a line or something to somebody and then pass it on, and they'd do the next. And by the time it got all the way around 15 people, you don't know what the fuck it was, right? They're playing telephone on the internet. They'll, oh, Jim Cornette made fun of, of goddamn zebras. How dare he? And then the zebra lobby comes after me. So, you can keep doing this on the internet, or, you can actually do something worthwhile and valuable with your time instead of getting your fucking feelings hurt all the time about shit just because you don't like somebody. Now I know how Trump suckered America, because suckers like you are out there. If these people were all peace and love and a box of fluffy ducks about all wrestling should thrive and everyone should participate.
If you don't like something, don't say anything.
But we should pull for all. I get to say something about wrestling I don't like because I'm the fucking expert. I'm not out here talking about agriculture.
No, root for everyone. Root for everyone.
Yeah, but if you root for, okay, then root for the NWA. These fucking 14 assholes on the internet want the NWA to kick me off the program and penalize them by not having me on their show. Like, honestly to God, it's a fun show and I love these folks and it's my traditional wrestling, but it would hurt my feelings not to have to leave the castle in freezing ass December and spend 5 days in Atlanta the week before Christmas. Maybe we ought to start that hashtag. Hashtag cancel Cornette till spring. Because it's fucking cold, this fucking weather. Anyway, if you don't get me, Cleveland, don't fucking listen. But anyway, I do apologize, and I will continue to modify my behavior.
Dave Meltzer has an expression, reading is your friend. In some of these cases, listening is your friend. Listen to what he actually says versus seeing a tweet and running with it and taking it out of context.
And you can listen to us not only here on the program, even if you get whether you get the program or not, you can listen to it, or on YouTube where we are also massively popular. And for fuck's sake, and just goddamn somebody get some fucking priorities, address some real issues. And old man bad, he hates my red. Oh, poor Jelly.